This talk is about the remote version of it, so everybody working from home, and is a kind of experience report based on how we use this in a situation in a high-stakes environment. So it's a story of my team working on the COVID app system, creating some of the backend system, the COVID app system for England and Wales, on how we worked on two of the backend systems of that particular program. High stakes environment, I'll explain a bit more later, but as you can imagine, in COVID times, there was high pressure to do this stuff, short deadlines, everything was very visible in the public, the various news agencies were always waiting for a mistake to happen, and make lots of noises about that. Okay, so let's start with what is mob programming. Let me turn this thing on. So it's basically, if you have done pair programming, is pair programming on steroids. Instead of having two people sharing the keyboard, you have the entire team. 5, 6 people. Here is not the remote version, it's the kind of on-site version. This guy, let's see if I can point with this. This guy is the one that will type. Everybody else will cooperate on creating the code, Simple. And the other thing that happens is that from time to time, the keyboard rotates, or the person rotates at the keyboard, so everybody has a chance to write something. It's pretty simple to understand, no complicated process, nothing like that. The remote version is when everybody is somewhere else, and there is basically screen sharing, and the keyboard that rotates is, in a sense, is a virtual keyboard. And this is what we use because, as you remember, there was a time where everybody had to stay at home, work from home, so no possibility to be in the same office. So virtual space, shared screen, and the stuff that you are still using now. Of course, to do that, you need some tools. These are some of the tools we used. So, for example, for us, the issue was, it still is an issue now. There aren't really specialized tools for this kind of collaboration yet. So you always end up stitching up the tools you have available. In our case, there we had Slack, we had Microsoft Teams. Sometimes we use Zoom. Mob is a tool to actually do is a script that helps in passing the virtual keyboard around. I won't go into many details of this, but you will end up having a mix of saying your ID and screen sharing and stuff like this. So whoever has the keyboard shares their own screen. Everybody sees that. IntelliJ, they have a feature called Code with Me. So at the time we tried that, so this was a few years ago, was not very mature, but basically allows, if everybody has IntelliJ, everybody can connect to the same instance, if you like. So the person is typing, everybody sees that in their own ID, the text changing, but they also can type themselves, which is not recommended if you're mobbing because one person types, not everybody at the same time. This is not a collaboration on Google Docs. But could be convenient because if it works well, it can be a bit more efficient than the screen sharing. Okay. There is Tuple that was made for pair programming. Now they are actually improving that because initially was only 2 people, then 2 people an observer, then now is a bit more. Is very efficient. You do screen sharing, and it's made for people that actually write code together remotely, so it's very, very efficient. And then now I think offers also video stream and things like this. So there is a tool set that you need to have, which probably all of you have anyway nowadays. And so we made up, as I said, the time Teams, Slack. We use IntelliJ because we were using Kotlin and some JVM stuff and screen sharing, things like this. Slack also we create, in Teams, and then in Slack later we created some virtual rooms. I'll talk about this a bit more later. The system itself, just to give you some context, was actually very simple. So the purpose of this thing was to allow people that were told by the app to self-isolate to actually claim financial support if they were on a low income. So they had to fill a form, because depending on the situation, they would get, if I remember well, like £500 per week of isolation. Yeah. So this gateway was actually a web app. And the reason for that is that in the COVID app itself, we couldn't get any personal information whatsoever, zero. So sometimes in the news, you would read that if you had the app in your phone, the government would be tracking you, and all that was complete rubbish. It was absolutely impossible to track anybody at all. Since we needed to, for some people say, okay, we need your data to give you the money, the way to do that without changing the COVID app was to put basically a button in the app, say, look, you can apply for this, yeah? But when you push the button, it will be redirected into a website outside it where you'll have to put your own data, yeah? Seems to be a bit complicated, but was fundamental to keep the app actually, the privacy there very strong. So fundamentally, a website, a very simple one, yeah? However, there are always complications, even when you do simple things in this kind of environment. So we had very short and hard deadlines. Short as in the original work was estimated in about 8 weeks. Yeah, at best, we had less than 4. And the reason for that is that an announcement was made to the public by the Prime Minister about the availability of this functionality. Yeah? So when you get that, it's a deadline that is as hard as it can get. Because if you don't hit the deadline, you will be in the news. To give you further context of what was our feeling at the time, every time we had a release of anything, and there was nothing in the news, was a cause of celebration. Yeah? Unstable requirements, so simple, the core functionality was pretty clear to us. But then, in these situations, when there is high pressure, you always have people around you with lots of ideas, should be doing this, should be doing that, and then there were the UX people that had wanted specific things. So there was a lot of noise, yeah, a lot of change. So we had to manage this somehow. Security and accessibility constraints were hard, as in the system had to be accessible because by law, all government systems in UK have to be accessible. So people with disabilities are able to use those systems, yeah? So it's not like, okay, it's easy, website will use React, blah, blah, blah. It's like, how do you make that thing accessible? Yeah, so we ended up, just to give you some detail to how to make it accessible, the government had a library, pretty much HTML with some templating, designed for accessibility. So we ended up doing something that for young people now is completely unorthodox. So serving web pages from the server, yeah, HTML stuff. For them was like, I've never seen this. Well, I mean, this is how things used to work when I started, yeah. But there was a reason. Accessibility was a non-negotiable thing. Security, anything that runs on government systems, even if it was basically this was deployed in AWS cloud, but owned by the government, is always under attack, yeah? So penetration testing, encryption, proper protection of communication, everything is a must. Yeah, no negotiation. It's not, yeah, we know about this, but who is going to exploit this? It's like, leave the room, fix it. That's it, yeah? And then, as I said before, high visibility, yeah, especially for failure. Everybody was out there waiting for a mistake, yeah? In fact, if you remember anything about those times, at least in UK, the COVID app was the only success, well, the only thing that was a success story without any major anything. When we had problems was generally due to some API malfunction on Google or Apple side. But I won't say any more about that because I'm on camera and then can get upset with me. Yeah? But this was a thing. Yeah, so, and still we needed to deploy quickly, you know, continuously and stuff like this, but was a thing. And then the team. So in this particular case was a small team. There was a delivery manager, there was myself, I was the tech lead, and I was basically pairing with the delivery manager. I'll explain how. 5 developers, and some experts from other teams. So we were one team of the greater program. The program itself was about, I think, 60, 70 people, developers, yeah? And we used some experts in other teams simply because, as we'll explain a bit later, we didn't fully know some of the technologies we had to use, yeah? And this is a different team, as Jim has probably recognized. The original Microsoft team, yeah. We were also distributed over 5 countries in Europe and 3 time zones. Now we'll see that time zones can be an issue sometimes. And also there were, of course, in these situations, you don't want anything to be simple, otherwise it's boring. So the way things were born was like, we need to do this, Giovanni, you are the lead, and these guys, this list of people is your team. Go and talk to them. Distributed in these 5 countries and 3 time zones, we didn't know each other. We didn't even know the fact that not only about each other, we didn't even know that each other existed at all. Same company, but never met. Yeah, never heard of. One was a senior developer, really good, and the other ones were really good, but junior, intermediate level, yeah? Limited experience with some of the tools, so we were using Kotlin. The team, the more experience in Java, some experience with JavaScript, stuff like this. Kotlin, well, no, actually, we don't have experience in this, but we'd like to use it. The rest of the system was running Kotlin in the backend, yeah? And then there was the automation as well for AWS, Terraform and all this kind of stuff. I mean, here we used full automation. There was not a single thing that we deployed manually. Yeah, no rubbish in it like that. So I could run a script from my laptop and recreate the full environment somewhere. Actually, we could spin up environments as much as we wanted, new ones. Yeah? And so it was a situation where the chances of failure were pretty high. Yeah? And so what was important to me at this point was setting the stage properly. Yeah, this was a difficult situation, high chances of failure, what could possibly go wrong. Yeah, so it was on me, being the tech lead, to actually make sure that things could work together. You see, when you hear about self-organizing teams, empowering things, the reality is that at the beginning, there is always a kind of hierarchy that forms, yeah? In any group of people, this happens. And in these situations where you have to be fast, and there is high pressure, high visibility, and you are a tech lead, your responsibility is to make sure that some things happen quickly, yeah? That the team is, empowered immediately, because what happens is, especially when you have junior intermediate, it's like, okay, we are in the team, what shall we do? We have no idea. Tell us, yeah? So you have to set the stage properly. Yeah. There were some important aspects that was, I couldn't possibly be a bottleneck. I couldn't be there to do the work myself. Yeah. Remember, I said lots of people with ideas and opinions, and basically had to keep these barbarians at the gate. Yeah. So the team had to be able to do things by themselves. Yeah. And so my setting the stage is something that I generally do anyway. So what we did was, when I knew what the team was, I sent an invite for a call. Then, first call, I introduced myself. Everybody introduced themselves. We went to a round of introductions, who I am, what I do, experience, things, just to get to know each other. And then, of course, since we had in a hurry, and then I had a meeting about that later, I explained how I worked and what I expected from them. Yeah? So things that I said is, I expect teamwork. So teamwork means everybody contributes. I don't give a toss about grades. You can be junior, senior, intermediate, whatever. You are a team member. Yeah? You're a team member, you contribute. You have ideas, everybody has to listen to your ideas, evaluate them. So it's just like the others. The difference in experience is not about who has got the power to decide. It's about, who knows what. Yeah, and what they can bring to the table. Yeah, what counts is contribution. Yeah, years of experience, don't give a toss. I still don't give a toss. Yeah, Okay, and this was important because it had to be clear to them that they couldn't wait for others to feed them work. Yeah. Also, the other thing that I said immediately was that I wasn't there to take all technical decisions because I couldn't. Yeah. And also, as much as I like to think that I'm infallible, I'm not. Yeah. I sometimes take the piece with people and say, and tell them, I'm always right. When in doubt, assume I'm right. But obviously, that's not true. And so I made also clear that when there were any kind of technical discussions, anything, yeah, even if I proposed something, I was at the same level of everybody else. So ideas had to be evaluated on merit. Yeah. Of course, when you are the tech lead or in any leadership position and you say that, you have to follow up with your actions. Yeah. Because everybody says that. If you ask any person in a leadership position, they will tell you exactly these things. Now, how many act on this? Well, that's a different conversation. Yeah. And then there were some things. There are things that I'm really keen on in general. By the way, if you have any questions, comments, please interact. Yeah. Don't wait at the end. Just talk. Raise your hand. Ask the question. I'll repeat the question because it will be on mic. Yeah. And then we can have also a conversation. So I wanted high quality. This is one thing that is important to me a lot. I mean, I never buy the argument we didn't create the test because we had no time. This is an extremely good way to make Giovanni stop smiling and actually get the angry face. Yeah? I'd never buy this argument, ever, because I have direct experience of exactly the opposite. Yeah? And also high quality because of the high visibility. Goes out there is a bug, the system crashes, and then you're in the news. Yeah? With things like, look, they fucked up again. Yeah? These kind of things. And we didn't want that. Automation. Automation was important. You want to go fast, you have to automate. Yeah? We have no time for automation because we'll take time and we need to go fast. And then you end up with a number of manual testers at the end. I can guarantee you that it will go so slow that you won't be able to deliver anything in a reasonable amount of time. Yeah. So again, and as I said, also we had other team experts available. There was some automation framework already there. So for us, it was kind of a lucky situation, if you like. But still, even if that wasn't the case, that would have happened anyway. Yeah. You want to go fast, again, automation is super important. For ICE principle, one thing that I told the team was, guys, I really want you to pair at least. But if we mob, would be great. We had a brief conversation and people went, you know what, yeah, let's mob. Sounds interesting, never done before, seems to be all right. Yeah? Because one thing I didn't want, which is one pet peeve of mine, and I've been saying this for a while, so I'm already on record for this, I despise pull requests and code reviews in asynchronous code reviews. They are a bottleneck. They are an enormous bottleneck, especially if you have to go fast. So there are several issues with it. It's like, I've done something, now somebody else looks at it, and the somebody else will look after the fact if I've introduced any problems. I want to prevent the problems to start with. So if you have several people there, you have a higher chance of preventing problems, yeah? Then there is the aspect of, I've done this code, can you please review it and approve? And the guy is busy, or the person is busy, and maybe they do that in 2 days, yeah? When you have a limited amount of time, you cannot afford that, yeah? So we were pretty much for ICE principle and trunk-based development, yeah? Okay? All the stuff that for many teams is really scary. But actually, when you do that, everything improves quite a bit. Collective ownership. Again, for RIA, anybody could touch the system anywhere. Yeah? And this was important again. Remember, COVID times. People might fall ill. We actually had one that had COVID. Fortunately, not in a serious manner. I mean, not serious as in serious problems, breathing problems or anything, to the point that he took a couple of days off, but then he was bored and he could work. And he said, guys, I just... But you see, it was an issue. Somebody gets ill, is the specialist of that part of the code, what do you do? Yeah? Collective accountability. We take credit together. You know, if we succeed, everybody succeeds. If we fail, everybody fails. Yeah? Again, you see these things all the time. You have to mean them. Yeah? They are easy to say, they are more difficult to apply, especially in situations of fuck-ups. Yeah? There is a problem. Who did that? Because, it was not me. I was in a meeting at the time. Yeah? This doesn't work. And if you are in a position as the official leader, you have to be there to praise the team when they do things. Make sure that everybody knows they've done the good thing. If something fails, you take responsibility. You never, ever, ever name anybody on the team as the one that messed up. Ever. Even if it's a situation where somebody messed up. You just don't do that. You may want to talk with the person if that's the case and try to understand what happened. But you never, ever expose your team, because as soon as you do that, your credibility is destroyed. Yeah? And the performance of the team is destroyed as well. And then mob programming actually gave us lots of these things. Yeah? It gave us resilience. Everybody working on the same code base at the same time. If somebody was missing, we could continue. Yeah? The colleague had COVID, couldn't work for some days, fine, we can move on. Yeah? Okay? Learning. Now, again, if you are in a situation where you split work for parallelizing, go faster, what happens is that some of the experts may be fine, but people that need to learn stuff will not be fine. Yeah, they will need access to help. But if the people that can provide help are busy with something else, yeah, learning won't happen. When you mob, what happens is that everybody's there. The learning is much, much faster, even including new people in the team or having juniors. Everybody learns much faster. And this is important, especially in these kind of situations. Yeah. And then quality as well. As I said, you prevent issues simply because whatever you are doing, there are more people. And if somebody says, well, shall we do this? Somebody else can say, well, hold on. Have you thought about this potential issue, this potential problem? Say, yeah, well, maybe we should try something else. Yeah? So you have if you like, the code review conversation before you write the code itself. Yeah? Other aspects, when you work remotely, there is always this thing with isolation. It's a difficult thing. Now when you are in the office, there are always people around. Maybe you are tired, you want a coffee, you can go someone and maybe go to the cafeteria together. You can have social interactions. When you are working from home, if you are working alone on your own tasks, you are alone on your own tasks. And this makes the situation sometimes really difficult, especially on days in which maybe you feel tired, you are not really productive, and then you start spinning wheels, not doing anything, 5 more minutes on Twitter. 1 hour later, you go to Instagram, and then you do something else. And you feel even more tired and kind of bored, yeah? When you are together in this kind of virtual room, the situation changes completely. Because also when you are mobbing, it's not that they are talking about serious stuff all the time. From time to time, you start talking, chit-chat, conversation. Maybe you have a break. If you are having a bad day, you still are productive because anyway, there is some level of peer pressure. And that is actually good because you will feel better anyway at the end of the day because you did something. Yeah. So there are these social aspects that are quite important. Better teamwork, because the entire team is there. One thing that we noticed, I'll mention this also later, is that the whole way the team interacts is different. You might have heard of the team, the stages of a team, forming, norming, what is forming, storming, norming, performing, yeah? This kind of, you put the team together, they kind of look at each other, quite unsure, how should I interact with this? Then there is the phase in which, the storming is where everybody tries to position themselves in the pecking order, yeah? and then everybody adapts to the situation and then start performing. When you use mob programming, all these things are done in an accelerated time. In our case, I don't think I've seen any storming at all. I mean, in 2 days, we were working as if we have been working together for a long time, which is extremely useful if you have to deliver stuff. Yeah. And then fewer bottlenecks. As I said before, you don't get stuck. I mean, if you get stuck in a mob, it means that the entire team is unable to solve the problem. Yeah. Which might happen to us, happens sometimes, for example, with Terraform, but then we are the experts. Yeah. But it was not the situation where you are working alone, I'm stuck, I ask for help on Slack, nobody responds because they are busy, and at the end of the day, you are not done because you got stuck, yeah? So here is different, you just don't get stuck, you get stuff done all the time with the team. If the thing gets stuck, it's something much more important. We are the experts, or as a team, you can go off and Google for it, find information. So the situation becomes much more manageable, yeah? What about speed? Because this is one of the things that really scares many people off, especially managers, is I keep seeing this thing in teams. We split up work to go faster because we parallelize. It's like we go multi-threading to parallelize and go faster. And then you see like, okay, 1 thread, 2 threads, slightly faster, but not quite linear. Go 5 threads, bang, because there is a synchronization problem, yeah? So when people are working on the same code base, at some point there will be a level of synchronization of the work, yeah? So that will be a bottleneck. The other thing that happens with software is that when people work separately, it's basically a distributed system. Some people will be ready earlier than others. And so you end up in a situation where you have a kind of disconnected thing in a functionality. This bit is ready, this is not, this we don't know. And so you have to wait to the slowest one to actually being able to assemble everything and have something that actually works. When you're mobbing, what you do, you work on the entire chunk of functionality together. You start, from the UI, you do your database, you do your backend, everything. It's easier to work in what they call the vertical slices, if you like. Yeah. And so you are synchronized at all times. And the fact that you keep interacting, you do better quality work, yeah, and you don't get stuck in pull requests or anything like that, you actually go much faster. It's totally counterintuitive, yeah, but I've seen this again and again. I can give you a recent example from one of my current teams. We're talking about these things, and they decided, I was checking with them, and they were not really pairing or mobbing because of reasons. At some point, they gave me the example, say, well, we here didn't mob because we had to finish all these tasks by the end of the day. So what we did was the two of us paired on this, the third person went alone to do the other task. So at the end of the day, we had both tasks done. And say, okay, were you done at the end of the day? Yes, because the people that paired actually did the thing and merged back into main. And what about the other? Yeah, I was done because I issued a pull request. I say, hold on. When you issue a pull request, you are not done. Yeah? You are done when your thing is pushed into main and deployed, ideally. When all the tests pass and everything. Issuing the pull request is not done because I haven't got the functionality in yet. And so sometimes developers have this idea that, the code complete thing. I'm done, I wrote my code, I should pull request, this task is done, I can put it in done. No, it doesn't work like that. If you are doing a pull request and people are reviewing, you are waiting for feedback. Until all the issues are solved, and then you can push to main and make sure that everything is fine with the rest and deployed, ideally, you are not done. Yeah? This is important because sometimes people misunderstand these aspects. Yeah? So my personal experience is actually the speed is actually much higher working this way. And also, of course, that you avoid problems in the first place. What happens is that you introduce fewer bugs, so you don't have the issue like, we have been very fast, we have deployed this, yeah, and what about the 3 months you spent fixing all the mess you created in the meantime? That makes you slow, yeah? That counts. But to make it work, of course, you need to some tools and put in some effort. So the first one is that this is valid for anything, by the way. The team needs some clear, meaningful goals. This means they need to know what they are supposed to achieve. With goals, I don't mean what some Scrum teams that misunderstand the term goal do. It's not. The goal is not implement feature A, B, C, and fix bug D. That's not a goal. That is a shopping list of stuff you have to do, yeah? The goal is, what do you want to achieve with this system? What are we giving the users, yeah, that is of value to them? That's a goal, yeah? And then, when you have a goal, you can achieve that with various levels of refinement, if you like, yeah? So an example could be, I don't know, Microsoft Word, an editor. Yeah, you can say that the goal is to give the users the ability to edit document, and then you can put some limited ability maybe to create a document, write something and save it. Later on, you can give the chances them to rename it. Yeah, so but you start with a core, some small thing, potentially with a UI that is usable but is not the fanciest ever. Yeah, still the goal is to give them something that they can use to achieve their own goals. Yeah. Okay, and these have been clear and meaningful. Like, meaningful means that there is something in the achievement that is important to the team. Yeah? Let's put things this way. If you tell developers, we need to do this because we'll help our customers save money, they may or may not care about that. If we do this, we'll save money to the customers, but also we'll learn this using these tools that are actually quite interesting and useful for you later on, yeah, and you learn stuff. Then you go, now I'm intrigued, yeah. Things change. So meaningful means that there is something personal for them, yeah, something in it for them on a personal level, yeah. In this case, imagine this: learning Kotlin, Terraform, all sorts of automation. COVID, we are helping people. Even that is important. Yeah, we are doing something that will help people. That is a meaningful thing. Yeah, we are doing something that will allow some random trader in a bank make billions. They need resources and support. Now, this is something that is still amazing. How you see sometimes companies that tell people, teams, you have to achieve this, and say, well, I would need for this. I need actually. I don't know, I'm working iOS, I need a MacBook Pro with 64 gigs of RAM because it's easier to deploy. Well, all you have is the Air version with 8 gigs, and it's like, well, but Xcode does not run in that. It's too underpowered. Yeah? And this happens all the time, but you have to give people resources. In our case, I can have an example here. We had a guy in Hungary that was the only one with Microsoft machines that was creating problems. Somehow the rest of we were a kind of Mac shop, yeah. But in Hungary there were Windows machines, and this was creating serious problems. Not because I don't particularly like Microsoft. I mean, I don't, but it's like was not a major issue. The issue was this person was blocked by what he had. Raised the issue. 3 days later, he had a brand new MacBook available there. Yeah. So management say, okay, we need to fix this. Have the thing. That's it, yeah? And keep the Windows machine if you like. But it was a matter of, we need to give people what they need to do their job. Seems obvious, it's not always obvious in all places, yeah? And then support as well is not only the tools and resources, but also if they need help to learn stuff, they are new to some systems, if you have any pointers to give them, anything that will help them become productive. Psychological safety, again, this is one of the things we talk again and again nowadays, yeah? And again, one of the things people say, yeah, we do this, we value that. Again, I mean the real thing. So we reach a point in the thing where we could discuss anything, yeah? Important, especially in situations where you have junior people that may be a bit afraid of coming forward with their own ideas. Or something is not working well and needs to be fixed, or your colleague makes introduce some serious bug and you want to tell them that that doesn't work, how do you do that without offending the person? These kind of things. This is important. You have to work on it to make that happen. Yeah. In my case was I needed to show that I was serious, so I would accept any feedback from them. I made the mistakes. Sorry, I made a mistake. Yeah, I'm not fallible. So you have also to provide the example. Yeah, you lead by example. And follow your words with actions. Then autonomy. So I said at the beginning that I told them, setting the stage, I couldn't take all the decisions myself. Yeah, so they had to do something. But doing that means also that I was there to support whatever decisions they took. Yeah, if you say you have autonomy, but what you decided is, solves the problem, but to me looks wrong, so redo it. It's kind of, if you to have autonomy, they've also to have the authority to take decisions. Yeah, of course they're accountable for the results. Yeah, but I said also collective accountability. This means that they to take the decision, but whatever results happen, if they messed up, I messed up as well. Yeah, so there is a level of, if you are in the leadership position, you have to delegate and you have to trust them. And if something goes wrong, it's also your problem. Yeah. Again, you have to believe in these things. So this may be difficult sometimes because for me, especially at the beginning of my career, I was a bit of a kind of control freak. Yeah, so it was difficult to trust others. And you have to learn that not everybody will solve the problems exactly in the way you would solve the problem. And this is fine. As long as the problem is solved, is a quality, there are tests for it, yeah, and it's fine. As I said, authority. So if they don't have the authority to take decisions, even the autonomy won't be there. Yeah, if they have to ask for permission to someone at all times, that is an issue. Yeah. And then there was this aspect that was pretty much big chunk of the work that I did as a tech lead and with the delivery manager. So the team was mobbing. We wanted them to be able to do their job. This was a high stakes, high pressure situation. As I said before, lots of people with lots of ideas and things to provide. Basically, they didn't have as much at stake as the team had. Yeah, a failure would have been a failure of the team, not of these people providing ideas. Yeah. And of course, it's not that they were there just making noises. Yeah, so there was quite a good amount of stuff, of useful things that they provided us. There was a reason for that, but there was a lot of noise. Meetings with 20 people, 15 people, several meetings a day. So you cannot have the team there. They have other stuff to do. And so there was me and the delivery manager splitting it. And she would take some meetings, I would take some others. And we acted as Gene Copeland in this book puts, well, I realized that you acted in this way after the fact, not that I read the book at the time and they said, we shall do this, yeah? So this is a kind of post facto thing. I realized that this is what we did. What Gene says, the firewall and gatekeeper. Yeah, firewall is you keep the team, you protect this from this horde of barbarians at the gates. Yeah, you put some protections there. You avoid too much. I mean, it's not avoid all the contact, but too much unnecessary contact, because that is a waste of time. And then as gatekeeper, that means you provide also information to the outside world. So as a tech lead, one of my responsibilities was making sure that the other stakeholders understood what we were doing, what the status was, and what the risks were. Yeah, and somebody has to do that, because when you keep important stakeholders in the dark, they rightly get nervous and worried. Yeah, so that was the kind of gatekeeper role. I played a lot of that. So meetings, my role was, these are the things that are happening. These are the risks that we see. Yeah, this is things that we think we can do, and these others we are quite unsure. So providing a flow of information, of course, also on the other side. Yeah, telling the team what happened and the important things they needed to know. And of course, the delivery manager did pretty much the same with another subset of people. So I was more on the providing the technical aspects to the outside world. She was more on the project management ones. Yeah. And then the two of us actually did something else as well to allow the team work the best way they could. They didn't really like Jira that much, but Jira was a tool there, yeah, with the usual thing, epic stories, stuff. And of course, management was very keen on that because it was a way for them to see what was happening. But the team wasn't, because we didn't provide any value to them. They actually preferred, with the team, we had a Miro board with a sketch of the system and things, kind of scribbles, yeah? This is what we are doing now. This is what we'll do next. And for us was extremely useful information. Jira, they didn't want to deal with that. And so the delivery manager and I told them, look, don't bother with that. We'll do the translation, yeah? So again, another thing so they could be as productive as they could possibly be, yeah? So a typical day, nothing fancy. Virtual stand-up call where we actually discuss the goals for the day. So it's like, okay, what are we going to do today? Things that maybe problems that we had to sort out. There were always problems to sort out. And the general idea of what we wanted to achieve. Then we had several virtual mob rooms. So initially we had them on Teams, but then was it kind of not satisfactory. Then we used also Slack. I can't remember now exactly, but it was a mix of two. So we created some virtual rooms with names. And so people say, during the stand-up call, okay, these are the things to do. Okay, guys, I will be working on these aspects. Who is with me? Yeah, we join virtual room 1, mob room 1. And others say, well, sometimes we work as one mob, sometimes 2. Yeah, because in the stand-up call, actually, we could think, okay, these are separate aspects. We know what to do. Maybe we'll work, a part of the team, we are actually dealing with some Terraform configuration. You fix this, then we'll reconvene in a single mob, make everything work, try things, yeah, push. So was not always one mob, was highly dynamic. Yeah, sometimes even a pair, but was never solo. Yeah, let's put things this way. Yeah, but the stand-up call was not what I did yesterday, the problems I had, what I'll do today, the kind of the ceremonial part of Scrum that some teams do. Yeah, where everybody's bored, nobody listens to the other, and they just say stuff. Was really a synchronization for the team. What are we going to do today? What are the issues that we left open yesterday that are actually bothering us that we need to fix now? How do we approach this? Okay, now we have an idea. Let's go one mob or say 2 mobs, and then there was this high dynamic thing where we join or split or join again during the day, yeah? Then, I said, developers will go in the virtual mob room. Occasionally, when I had no meetings, I did the same. Unfortunately, not often enough for me because I generally calls with other stakeholders. So myself and the delivery manager, again, calls every day, status updates, getting information, fighting against any kind of gold plating because we had no time, all this sort of stuff. Yeah. So easy stuff. No big process, you shall do this, that, nothing like that. Of course, things were not perfect, yeah? So we had some issues. But the thing is that were surprisingly few, and I attribute this to a few factors. That is, we were working together at all times, and probably the fact that we are part of the same company, even if it was different offices, had an impact. I think there was some kind of common company culture as well in play there. I don't have any factual data. It's more kind of a feel, the way we work. But interestingly, I said before, all the aspects of norming, forming, storming, norming, performing, were compressed in a few days. Because when you are mobbing, yeah, what happens is you are forced to work together. Yeah? If you work solo, I'm working with Alana, I say, oh God, I can't stand Giovanni. Fortunately, I can work on my things, and I do the same. But then we never sort our issues out. Yeah? We just push them Because it's always difficult to sort these issues out. But when you are forced to be together the entire day, we had some days that were 16 hours days. Yeah, I mean, you have to do something. Yeah. And so what happened there was interesting because the few issues we had, some members of the team that had problems with other members, but we are not talking about anything major, but things that they wanted to discuss. Not personal things, but was kind of way of interaction, or maybe the other person made something wrong, whatever. They would come to me, discuss with me in confidence, basically saying, what should I do? And in those situations, all I did was help them frame the issue in a way that was easy for them to share with the other person. So, it's basically expose the problem, don't attack the person, yeah? So acted as a kind of, maybe I coached them, let's say that, yeah? So helping them to frame these issues in a way that was useful to sort them out, yeah? To avoid the, you are really irritating, yeah? You really need to change your ways. That just doesn't go anywhere, yeah? So at the beginning, this happened with me, but then they started sharing among themselves. They felt safe to actually do that. Yeah, so there was the psychological safety that was starting to take shape, if you like. Yeah, and so these kind of issues were really solved easily. We were able to say things like if somebody wrote some shitty code, they say, well, come on, that sucks. Yeah, no problems. It was the code, it was not the person. We knew actually that the other person was pretty good. Yeah. And this was quite fast because it really took, I think, a couple of days in total to sort all these small things out. Yeah, it was really compressed time. In a typical scenario, go on, Gail.
Do you know how people were assigned to this team in the first place?
So Gail asked if I know how people were assigned into this team in the first place. Yes. Managers took, okay, we need people with these skills. Okay, tell them that they are in this project. This is how they were assigned. Yeah.
On skills.
On skills. The companies often have the matrix of skills, for people, this person knows Java or Kotlin or AWS maybe or stuff. And they decide, well, this is AWS, we're probably using Java or Kotlin, and who is available in these particular offices. This is how they do that. And this is how I knew about the team, because basically somebody came to me, it's like, ta-da, congratulations, you are now a tech lead, and this is your team. That's it. No asking, would you like to? Yeah, which is, in that situation, is also understandable. You see, here you are short of time. Yeah, have to be quick. Yeah, so you can't really go on, would you like, think about these 3 days or 4 days. But it's also, in general, a common thing in this kind of companies. Yeah, and people kind of expect that anyway. Yeah. As I said, we had different time zones, and the time zones can be a problem. We had one person that was in Hungary, I think, if I remember well. He was 2 hours ahead of us in UK. Everybody else several of the team were somewhere else in Europe. We had Austria, Germany, were 1 hour difference. The 1 hour is not a big deal. Yeah, you can work around. 2 hours starts to be borderline problematic because this person was the only one on that time zone. Yeah, so we had to structure things in a way that when he started the day, somehow he could do productive work, but not things for which we really wanted to pair or mob. Yeah, so not really coding, maybe looking for stuff, things that could be done alone without causing any potential bugs in the code because nobody else has looked into it. As I said, not because the person was a bad one, it's just because anybody alone could make more mistakes. Yeah, so different time zones can be a serious issue.
Was 2 hours the maximum time?
What we found for us, yes, in this particular case for us was 2 hours, and we found out that it was already, borderline acceptable, if you like. Yeah. So in another team later on, after this, we absorbed other people from another team. We actually had also somebody in Singapore that since he was having fun with us, he decided to work UK hours in Singapore, which was quite bizarre. I told him, look, you shouldn't be doing that. He said, well, don't worry, I'm having fun. I don't have a life. I'm enjoying staying with you here from Singapore. But as you can imagine, in general, it's not something that you would like to do, yeah? Yeah, so you know that, yeah. No need to say more, yeah. It can be an issue. So as much as there are advantages for remote mobbing, time zones can be a serious problem, yeah? Well, he's in a time zone. It's just not the same one. So, as I said, we come up with things this person could do that were useful, but were not critical. Yeah, when he was alone, of course. When everybody then was online, yeah, was fine. And also, what happens in different time zones, you have to agree what time you start, what time you finish. So you have to go and get the middle point. You don't want some people to always start late and others start early or something like this. So you have to find an agreement that works for everybody involved. And because there are always complications, if you have people in different countries, it's not only the time zones, it's the laws. So in some countries, people cannot do any kind of overtime unless it's announced like 1 month before with specific procedures and stuff. So in some countries, they have to finish by 5 p.m. there, full stop. No exceptions. Otherwise, that would expose the local line manager to the wrath of the law. Yeah. So you end up with all sorts of these kind of strange problems. Yeah? When it's distributed in different countries, you have this. Or another thing, I don't know if I'll mention this later, but as I said before, we had some days that were like 16 hours long. Yeah. So we went fast, but we worked hard. Also some weekends, still without sacrificing quality or anything else. Overtime regulations changed, so it's not only that some people couldn't simply do that, others could do that, but then for the local law, there were things that had to be done for their paycheck. So in Britain, it's pretty much, you work longer, tough luck, yeah? In Austria, it's not like that. In Germany, it's not like that. So you have to keep into account that there are overtime payments and all this sorts of stuff with some procedures to follow, yeah, which has an impact. Yeah? So at some point we had some issues with that, and I had to have a conversation with the management, my bosses, saying, look, there are these issues, we need to sort them out. Basically, these people, they really want to do the work because they want it, but we need to sort these overtime issues out. Now, yeah? And because there is the legal aspects and there is also the aspect of fairness. People could say, like, you are asking me to work long hours, but I don't have anything in return. Why should I do that? Show me some appreciation. It's not necessarily the money per se, it's the gesture of appreciation as well. So one of the things that I had to help sort out was this kind of stuff. Yeah? Of course, remote mobbing has advantages. Nowadays, you hear people say, well, working remotely, you cannot, collaboration is difficult, all sorts of things, so you have to be in the same office and whatnot. Now, my view is that that is not entirely true. So when you work remote, my personal view is that the important thing is to understand that it's a very different way of working. So you cannot let's work as if we were in the office, but we are remote. Just doesn't work. Yeah, you have to have a different mode of interacting. Yeah, the coffee break is not like let's go to a coffee shop, maybe you are mobile and say, guys, I'll grab a tea, wait for me a second, and say, oh no, you know what? It's a good idea. Everybody goes for a tea. We'll see you back in 5 minutes, and maybe you come back a bit earlier in front of your screen. Somebody else is there. Then you start chit-chatting in front of tea. It's a bit requires a different kind of interaction and maybe some preparation if you want to have this kind of things together. Yeah, it's a different thing. But one great advantage is that you don't need to book a meeting room. This is non-trivial. When you work in offices, you know that sometimes you need a meeting room for something and all of them are full. Well, or where at some point now is a bit different. Sometimes now you have the meeting room because people are hybrid. But imagine this, in a situation where everybody's in the office and you need a meeting room to book, and you go say, can I book a meeting room? Of course, for how long you need it? Well, 8 hours. Today, tomorrow, the day after. I mean, for the next 6 months, more or less the duration of the project. They tell you, that's the door out. Just is not going to happen. Yeah. When you're remote, I mean, you don't need that. To the point that I'm thinking, I never tried what I'm going to say, but if I was in the office with a team, co-located, what I would be tempted to try is some kind of co-located remote mobbing. Let's put things this way. Yeah, everybody their own computer. Basically, you look mobbing as if you are remote, but everybody at their own desk. So you work together because you don't have maybe the meeting room, but you have the desks. And then in the interruptions and things, you can go to a coffee shop together. Yeah, I've never tried this. I'm tempted to do that at some point. Because it's a kind of, you still have the advantage of doing things together, but then you can use together as in programming and mobbing, but then you can also use the advantages of just being physically in the same space and enjoy a meal together, enjoying coffee, a chat, whatnot. Mobs can be created on demand. Again, this is linked to the meeting room problem. Okay, so guys, now, as I said, it was highly dynamic situation. So sometimes we split knowing what we are doing. So the splitting there, the parallelization was very different from the parallelization I mentioned at the beginning. Because this was, we have very clear goals. We are pulling all in the same direction. We know what they are doing. And we are doing this task that we know that won't interfere with this, but we know where the synchronization point is. At that point, we'll be together again. Yeah? So it was a very different way, if you like, was managing the multi-threading in a sensible manner instead of assuming that everything can be parallelized in a stupid way. Yeah, and sometimes you can create these things on demand. You can create as many virtual rooms as you want, and people just join there, and you have them on. Imagine this in the office again. We thought about one, but sometimes we split in 3 as well. So can I book 3 meeting rooms for the next 6 months? The entire day. Actually, more than the entire day, because from time to time we stay longer. Yeah, it's not going to happen. Access to a wider talent pool. This is actually quite interesting because for us, some of our experts were in Germany or somewhere else. If you are limited to the same physical location, yeah, you've got only those people. Yeah, of course, a small company that is in one location, I mean, this is not really an issue they have, yeah? But for bigger companies that are in several countries, this is quite an interesting thing because say, you know what, we have some experts about these aspects that we really need here, but they are in this other country, but we can use them, it's easy, yeah? They work remotely together, it's fine. And probably for the ones of you that work in bigger companies, it's kind of normal now, yeah? But when we were in the office, it was not like that. When we were in the office, if you needed the expert from far away in your company, then they would tell the customer, well, look, we have to bring this person from there, so we'll charge you all the costs about flights, hotel, whatever, but it's fundamental for the success of the project. And the person would come maybe here and live in their family for an extended period of time, all sorts of implications. With the remote mobbing, you just don't have that. And it's a tremendous advantage. And for us, was fundamental. Our expert about Terraform was in Germany. Was actually an excellent guy, really knowledgeable, a Greek guy in Germany. And he from there basically taught us Terraform in quite an interesting way. Yeah? With a mob, he wouldn't touch the virtual keyboard ever. He would tell people now, how would you solve that? Yeah, have you tried this? Do that. And then things like, okay, try to do error message. And they would go, what has just happened? And people would start, maybe it's this. Read the message. What has just happened? It was like, a very strict teacher. But was very useful because he let people do the work. He was there to actually help them look at the problems in the right way. We had, I think our first week was like 3 days, 16 hours each with him in a mob. I mean, 16 hours. It was just insane, yeah? Work, but was insane. And there was a gigantic accelerated learning. Yeah. So the access to wider talent pool can be a great advantage. And then there is this. This is beautiful. Nobody can see you doing it. No. This is fundamental because, like pair programming or any other practice that may sound controversial to managers, yeah, what happens is when you talk about this, they say, yeah, of course, yeah, we are a modern company, we do these things. Then there is the situation of pressure and everybody gets scared and go, well, why have you thought about going in parallel here to go faster or stuff like this? When they don't see you, when you are distributed, you are not in the office, they are not able to see you in the room, only one keyboard and get worried. They don't know what you are doing. As long as there is the gatekeeper, as I was doing, giving them information about what we are delivering, where the risks and how we are addressing them, yeah, you have a good way to actually do this stuff without interference. Then, of course, when you succeed, everybody's on board with you. Yeah? When you succeed, the very same people say, yeah, we always work this way. Yeah? But this is important because it removes a source of friction. Yeah? Some chunks of meetings where people keep telling you how you should be doing your job. Yeah. Oh, I'm going fast, so we'll have kind of half an hour for questions. And so the results, this was quite good. So we actually delivered high quality in production on time. That was quite something. Now I tell you what happened there. So we had to deliver by, if I remember correctly, the date promised, it was kind of 10th of December in 2020, I think. The thing is that the time was so short, but we had to do this because there was an announcement from the Prime Minister that really nobody really believed we could make it. Yeah? Well, except the team, we were kind of, we'll do it. A bit foolish, but. And on the day before the delivery, the official delivery date, there was some penetration testing that was still finishing, so we had to fix some encryption in some cookies, some stuff. Minor things. We had tests for all of that. So also the fixes, we were refactoring the tests, good practice. And so there was a cut-off time at 8 p.m. on the day before, where if we couldn't make it, we could say, sorry, we cannot make it because the press office of number 10 had to be informed to craft an appropriate message for the population. Imagine this stuff, yeah? It's like, it's not the deadlines in the banks, they go, what they say, the sound of deadlines passing by, like whoosh. Here was the potential of news going out, say, yet another failure from the government and stuff like this. Yeah, serious implications. So when finally the last penetration test finished and everything was good, meeting at 7 p.m. with all the major stakeholders, I joined the call, virtually entered the room like this. And everybody was a bit, waiting for the news, say, okay, we are go, all done, tomorrow we are going production. There was this big roar. Because, you see, it was a big win for everybody involved there, yeah? Now, we made that, but was not, as I said, as I hinted, was not really a walk in the park. We had 16 hours days, we had weekends of work, it was tough. What we didn't do was water down quality, was avoiding automation, avoiding testing. That we did it religiously, no exceptions, zero, yeah? And one interesting effect of this was really hard, where we were really tired, but the team was so pumped up that they were actually glad they were in the project. One of my teammates at the time told me that his line manager at some point told him, look, we need to pull you out of this project now because we need you somewhere else. And his answer was, well, of course you can do that. You're my manager, I resign. I was like, okay. So despite the hard work and the difficulties, the thing was that everybody learned so much. Yeah, we did something that was meaningful, that everybody was actually, you know what? Well, it was not that bad after all. You know, it's kind of thing, which was also quite satisfactory in many ways. In fact, everybody was, all stakeholders, including the team, were extremely happy about that. You know, the kind of success stories that you tell your friends and your long hours we did this was tough, yeah, but we fought against the events and blah, blah. The thing is, this was not a fluke. We did it again. So in that particular system, at some point we absorbed another team that was dealing with another project. That was, for the ones here in UK, there was in the app, there was a system of basically checking in into venues. QR code in a venue, say if I'm getting a venue, I check in with the app. Basically was, so you in the phone had information about you had been there. All this stayed in the phone, it wasn't transmitted anywhere. But if we knew that there was a COVID outbreak at about the time you were there, what would happen is, we know about a COVID outbreak in this location this time, broadcast this information to all the phones, yeah, because we couldn't possibly know who was there because of this privacy. And then it would have a pop-up saying, look, when you were in this particular place, there was somebody that had COVID, yeah, check yourself out. And we, in that case, was not really high pressure anymore, but we used mobbing, and we actually rewrote the entire system in its totality, because that had been created by another company that then they left and was different, I think was C#, but no test, was just a bit of a mess. Bit by bit, we recreated, actually we refactored it into Kotlin without stopping anything, yeah, lambdas and stuff, replacing bits and bobs one at a time, and I do that. And that bit efficiently. And then, still at my company, what happened, yet another thing that was not related to the COVID app was, after this big success, what happened was we were kind of small celebrities within the company. And so I was asked to help another project that was challenged. So I said, basically, talk to the project manager, the tech lead, they have problems here, go there, do something, yeah, fix them. Because it was like, you know, they can do this. Obviously, this guy is a wizard, a magician, well, which was not the case, but the thing is, they had the usual problems. So dependency on specific individuals, some new people that found quite difficult to work on the system, all sorts of things, you know, normal stuff. And the only thing I told the tech lead, have you considered mobbing? Because this would allow you to distribute knowledge more evenly. Will make also new joiners, will make for them life easier to join the team and become productive. You know, there are advantages, so try this out. They were in a real crisis. The customer was not happy at all, yeah? They tried that out, and the situation improved a lot. They actually started delivering. The customer was happy. The team finally had a clue about what they were doing. One person in the team was actually in my team when we were in the COVID app, so in this other one. And then when this happened, he wanted a call with me. And he was really pissed off. I say, why, when I said that we should try mobbing, nobody listened to me? Because he did that in our team. I had to explain, this is something that is important always to keep in mind also, maybe when you propose something in a company. I was in that company a principal consultant, basically as high as you could possibly be, well, except for the distinguished ones that are kind of special, you know, they could fly, hover on, yeah. And this guy was more junior. And so the only difference there was not about the idea, was about the clout within the company, yeah. So I had to explain him how basically human relations work in this respect. Yeah. So in that particular case, if I said something had more weight than if he did, simply because of that. But it was interesting that he was actually proposing the way that we worked on together, because he saw what was, you know, what could be achieved. Yeah. So it's not a fluke. This mob programming actually works well in most situations. And that's it.